I'm on one of my walks again, and this morning I would like to talk about loneliness and my experience with it as a neurodivergent person. I believe that the way our brains interpret togetherness versus loneliness as neurodivergent people may be slightly different from the way the brains of neurotypical people interpret togetherness versus loneliness. Before I discovered that I was neurodivergent, that I am neurodivergent, I started taking myself on picnics. So it's one of those things that I did during that time when I was trying to heal myself and when I was trying to start taking care of myself in certain ways. I would spend a lot of time in nature, especially in areas where there's a lot of greenery, where there's water, etc. And one of the places that I could do that best was at a park beside a lake. I loved it. So I'll take myself on picnics there, maybe once a week, sometimes more than that. And I would just have a solo picnic by myself and just watch the water. One day I was having one of those picnics, and then somebody came up to me and said, "Oh, they saw that I was a bit lonely. I was very lonely, actually. That was the way they put it. That I was very lonely, and they decided to come and ask why. Actually, that wasn't the actual reason. That wasn't the real reason. That was just an excuse. But they meant it when they said that I was lonely, but that did not make any sense to me. It felt wrong. That's not the only situation in which I've seen people confuse or conflate loneliness with being alone. And so my only interpretation of that would be that the way neurotypical people see loneliness is different from the way neurodivergent people feel loneliness. Even if you don't articulate it to yourself, even if you don't sit down and teach yourself what loneliness actually is, if you felt loneliness before, you know it's primarily an emotion. And for me, whenever I think of loneliness, how loneliness feels for me, it's like a wave of emotion, a very strong wave of emotion that just comes suddenly. And that strong wave of emotion makes you feel certain that you are isolated, that you are alone. And many times, at least for me, when I used to feel this emotion, A, I was in burnout. B, I would be in the midst of certain people and I would feel not lonely. And I would be in the midst of some other people and I would feel very lonely. And sometimes I'll be in the midst of people who are supposedly maybe close friends or supposedly family members, certain family members, and I would feel this strong wave of loneliness, which doesn't make sense because supposedly you're not supposed to feel lonely when you're in the midst of people, let alone people who are supposed to be close people to you. And sometimes I would not feel lonely at all while I'm in the midst of people who are not, you would not even expect, like maybe people who I've just met, like acquaintances who are even our close friends. And so whenever I think of it, that just does not make sense. So the first thing I've learned about loneliness is that loneliness has nothing to do with whether you're with people or you're not with people, first of all. Second of all, if you've chosen to be alone for any reason, like the time when time when I decided to go on those picnics, I decided to be by myself because I needed time away from people. I needed to be by myself. That is not loneliness, that's voluntary isolation or being voluntarily alone. And every single time when I've chosen to do things by myself or to be by myself, I've never felt that strong wave of emotion called loneliness, ever. And I just want to reiterate that every single time I felt that loneliness, it has been when I've been in the midst of people. So it has nothing to do with whether you're in the midst of people or whether, or at least speaking for myself, feeling lonely has nothing to do with being by myself physically or by myself or with people physically. Loneliness has to do with something else entirely. Again, I'm speaking from the perspective of somebody who is neurodivergent. So I've realized that as neurodivergent people, we need deeper connections. One of the reasons we cannot stand small talk, it drives us crazy and it just drains us. And it's one of the reasons why we hate superficial connections, why we hate friendships that are only surface level. You know, those kinds of friendships where it's all fake life because all of you know you don't really care about each other, but you spend time together anyway and you talk and you do all this stuff together and you make it seem as if you guys love each other, but every single person knows that people don't really care about each other. We cannot really stand superficial friendships like that. And it feels like a threat to our nervous system. Same thing with small talk, same thing with things of that sort. And one of the things we also cannot handle is being with people who are supposed to understand us, who would expect that they would understand us, but don't actually understand us. So we feel like we're not seen when we're with those people. We feel invisible when we're with those people. And for me, that was one of the strongest things that contributed to my feeling of isolation, that felt my feeling of loneliness. It was that I was in the midst of people who I felt did not see me. I never felt that sense of belonging. I never felt that sense of connection, that deep sense of connection, that deep sense of belonging with them. And it contributed to that strong feeling of loneliness that I had. And with the people with whom I never felt lonely, it was because somehow I felt accepted by them. Somehow I felt like I could be myself around them to a certain extent. When you're masking, it's you can only unmask around people, you know, so much. You still have to hold back certain parts of yourself because, for a lot of reasons. But I felt accepted by them as me, as a person. I never felt judged by them. I never felt pushed out by them. I never felt isolated by them. And because of that, I never felt lonely when I was with them. And some other times when I felt lonely as well are maybe when I'm at certain parties and I don't know anybody at that party, or the person I know at that party is busy off with one or two things. Maybe they're the host, so they are busy trying to organize things, so they don't have time to stand with me and or maybe sit with me and spend time with me, or you know I'm at a party in the midst of people, or I feel out of place. Yes, I feel out of place, but I also feel lonely even though I'm surrounded by people. So what I'm just trying to reiterate is that being lonely has nothing to do with being alone. I feel at my best when I'm alone, sometimes, many times. Not gonna. I said no. And it has, the reason why what that guy said about how I was lonely because I was sitting by myself having a picnic when I was actually having one of the best times of my life. And ironically, not so ironically, now that I understand what loneliness is and what loneliness is not, when this person came to spend time with me, then I started feeling not very nice. Nakwana. I said, no. Oh, well. And I remember on that day, I was feeling good. I was feeling so good on my picnic, watching the water, watching ducks on the water, watching the color of the clouds reflected on the water, and the color of the water changing with the color of the clouds. It was really beautiful. And then this person came and sat down, insisted on sitting down on my picnic mat and interrupting my communing with nature. And they kind of ruined my zen, as much zen as I could have. So having that person come to join me actually ruined my zen. I'm just going to say, if you're the kind of person who feels lonely, look around you and sit down and actually think of all the times when you felt that strong wave of loneliness, that strong emotion that indicates loneliness to you. Think of all those times and think of the kind of people who you've been surrounded with. Think of the situations where you've been in. Maybe you've been in a place where you have felt rejected, or you felt pushed out, or you felt like you did not belong there, you did not feel any sense of connection, or you were spending time with certain people and you were having conversations that were very surface level, and you were having conversations that insisted, conversations that made you feel like you needed to mask even more than usual, and you knew that if you actually expressed yourself in true form, that you would be rejected. Maybe because of that, you felt also very lonely in situations like that. Maybe like me, you've been at parties, and because you could not connect with people there, or the people you knew at those parties could not spend time with you for whatever reason, you felt lonely there, or you've been in the midst of certain people, whether family, whether friends, whoever they may be, whether even a spouse, whoever that person may be, and you haven't felt a deep sense of connection that you would love to feel with people like that. And I think of those situations, and I think of the times when you have not felt lonely, whether it's when you've chosen to be by yourself for whatever reason for any amount of time, or when you've been around certain people, and look at the qualities that those people have in common that could be the reason why you have not felt lonely with them. And I'm just going to add this, that one of the things that contributes to our feelings of loneliness when we're with certain people, especially close people, is that expectation, the expectation that we naturally have, that when a person is a family member at all, whether it's a nuclear family member, extended family member, more so a nuclear family member, like a spouse, or like, certain kinds of family members, then we'd expect that they should have a certain kind of deep connection with us. And when that does not happen, or a friend, we'd expect that that friend should be accepting of us. And when things like that do not happen, when we find other than that, when find ourselves rejected in one way or another, then we begin to feel lonely. That's well done. Actually. Okay, that is a wonderful looking horse. Anyway, I'm going to get up now and continue my walk. Guys, that horse, I was low key like stressed and anxious because the man was riding that horse very fast. And I was so scared that the horse was going to throw him and he was going to break his neck. But he didn't. He offered me a ride too on the horse, but I declined. Yeah.